Welcome to the Wealthy in Pajamas podcast, where it's not all about the money, but it's not about the money. I'm your host, Sonya Highfield, the Wealth Expansion Coach, here to help creatives find their real version of wealth, build profitable businesses, and be happy, healthy humans. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Wealthy in Pajamas. I am so excited you're with us and so excited to introduce you to Mallory Musante. Mallory, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to jam today, and I feel like you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom that you're going to drop on everyone. So let me read your bio so everyone knows who you are and how amazing you are. Mallory is a seasoned fractional CMO and marketing consultant dedicated to helping businesses grow through data-driven, research-backed marketing. She has nearly 15 years of experience, and she's known for her accessible approach to marketing, helping hundreds of organizations build sustainable marketing ecosystems that are aligned with measurable insights, ensuring every decision is impactful and purposeful. Mallory is also the co-creator of Bright Beta Company's No Limits Planner and the co-founder of Bridge Insights, a new technology company helping organizations bridge information gaps with state-of-the-art AI. Okay, amazing. So you do so many cool things. And before we dive into like all of the 9 business lives that you've had, I would love to hear the question that I love to ask all my guests, which is, what does wealth mean to you?
Yeah, I love this. And I've been trying to think about it. And I honestly feel like my answer probably would change, maybe not day to day, but my answer has definitely changed to that over time. So I think like in my current, version of who I am, wealth is very much, it feels like very like easeful. So I'm really like craving like that slower pace. Like, not that I want my businesses to slow down at all. Like I still want them to thrive and everything. But I want to have that balance of like business just like feels easy. Life feels really easy. And just kind of like flowing and way more of that like feminine energy type of energy going into it.
Yeah,
So
I love it.
that's what it is for me right now.
Yeah, beautiful. So tell us a little bit about how you have landed where you are now. And yeah, like as much of your, entrepreneurial journey as you want to get into. And yeah, I know, like I said, like you've started 8 different businesses.
Yes.
So yeah, like how have you landed where you are?
Yeah, okay, let me try to do this quickly. We don't have to go into every single business because some of them were short-lived. But I started my first company while I was still in college. So I went to school for marketing. And while I was there, I never planned on being a business owner either. I was like, I'm going into marketing. I'm going to work for corporate America, climb the corporate ladder, all of that fun stuff. And while I was there, I ended up joining, which is like funny because I didn't want to be a business owner, but I ended up joining a club called CEO, which is Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. Probably just because a bunch of my friends were in it. But while I was there, I went to their national conference out in Chicago, and one of the speakers I went to listen to was actually this guy who would hand paint like Air Force Ones. And he would like sell them to Jay-Z and like all these like big celebrities. And I was like, I can do that. So I was like, I'm not going to do like Air Force Ones, but like this is cool. I love shoes. So let me see if anyone does this with like high heels or anything. So I just like, he sold a kit. I bought that. I started playing around and like really like it. That's how it kind of like began. So I actually spent my last semester in college doing an independent study where I was like building my business plan and like getting all of that started. Now I will
And
say.
that was to paint shoes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Very unique business. And not all that profitable. I did that for a while. I did a lot of like shoes for brides and things like that. It was a lot of fun, but again, it wasn't super profitable, very hard to, it was very time intensive, so it was hard to like turn a profit like at all.
Mm.
Um, so I ended up, I think it was I started, I pivoted essentially. So I shut that company down and then I started an accessories company where I was basically just a boutique, like an online boutique.
Mhm.
And while I was doing that too, I did also have jobs, supporting me because I wasn't really making money. So one of those jobs was actually working as a social media manager for a PR agency out of New York City. So I was doing both of those at the same time. So fast forward, that job was incredibly toxic, and I knew I was going to get laid off. And me and my business or my coworker at the time, we were like, you know what, like we see the writing on the wall. I'm getting laid off. She kind of was like, I'm ready to be like done with this too. So we were like, we could just do this together on our own. So we
Yeah.
started a company, and that really just kind of like took off pretty quickly. We leveraged our connections and everything. So from there, that was making me money. I was able to actually, live off of that income. So I shut down the accessory company. So we ran that agency for about 5 years. Then in 2020, it's ironic because the world is on fire, and I'm just like, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just really burnt out. I didn't think I liked marketing anymore. So I wanted to make a transition. So I stepped away from that company. And then through that period of time, I started a bunch of other little ventures, just trying to figure out like what I wanted to do. And then I decided I needed to actually make money and pay my mortgage. My savings was getting real low. And I stepped back into marketing and I was like, you know what, I can just do this like differently. I've really wanted to do more consulting work. So I kind of started stepping into that role, and that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am now. I started building strategies and then stepping into like more of the fractional CMO role there. And then, through that, obviously, too, I started Bright Beta and then most recently Bridge Insights too.
Okay, super cool. I love to hear people's story because really, I'm sure I've said this 100 times on the podcast already, but like it's almost never a linear
Yeah.
journey for
Yeah.
people. But I love that you kind of have like circled back to what, like at least you went to college for and you were studying. So there was some like threads along the way. And did you feel like, I mean, it sounds like you had an artistic business to start. Like, did you at some point think you were gonna like be like a fine artist or commercial artist in some capacity too?
Not really. I think I am like a creative person, but I think the way my brain works is way more like analytical.
Hmm.
So I really through that first business, I very much was like, I like painting, but I think I like painting as like an outlet and a hobby and like to
Mm,
express myself. And I actually very much enjoyed the business side more, which is why I actually transitioned into more of the retail side because I was like, I can still have a little bit of that creative outlet because I'm choosing the accessories
yeah.
to sell, but I can very much focus on the business side of things.
Yeah. Okay. So cool. I found like when I was in my photo business, I'd gone to school for photography and art and like that's what I loved and thought I was always going to do. But I also found like building a business, that part of it really was like more interesting to me after a time than like learning more about photography or like advancing my photo skills. And it's such a funny kind of thing, though. Like, of course, I feel like I'm still a very creative person,
Mhm.
even in my coaching business. But yeah, I think there's like some kind of different, like brain wiring for people who like are like, I just do art. Like I do not know anything about the business side of things. And then there's people who are really like, let me dive into the business stuff and then you can kind of apply it, right, to like any industry that you end up
Yes.
working in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so cool. So, where do I want to go now? I have so many questions. For you now, when you're working with clients, is there anyone in particular that you love working with? Like I know you said, you're kind of doing things differently this time around. Is it because of like different clients that you're working with? Is it because of your own boundaries that you've put in place, or kind of like the pace of things, like you were saying, like more easeful? What do you think, or like what are you doing this time around to have the business feel different?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of everything you touched on. So when I was, during 2020, and like honestly, even before that, it kind of like started where I was like, I just like am not as fulfilled as I was when we started this company. And a part of that was because it's going to sound really trivial, but I going back to my creativity is like I am an expressive person. Like I do like to, like feel represented in like what I'm doing, right? So that company before it was great. We had amazing clients, but it was very bright and colorful brand. And I'm
You're
not
dark and moody.
I'm not even dark and moody. I'm just more like I'm like a jewel tone where it's like that just like I don't wear bows. Well, maybe very rarely wear bows, like very rarely wear like super bright colors.
Mm. So it didn't feel like authentic to
Yeah,
you.
like I just like and when we started, I didn't think that was going to be a problem. I just was like,
Mm.
I'm good at marketing. It's like not a big deal. Like I can like
Yeah.
do this and I can kind of fit within some of this. But then it kind of was
Mm.
like, oh, like these are all the types of clients we're attracting, where they're
Mm.
just like very, for lack of a better term, like girly. Which is like there's nothing wrong with that. It just was getting a little monotonous for me and like just wasn't quite where I wanted to like put my focus on things.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel represented. I wasn't really fulfilled by the projects we were doing because it all just felt a little monotonous. So
Mm.
when I stepped back into marketing, I also, we were building websites. We were doing logo designs, social media management, things like that. And this time I was like, I don't really want to be like doing the things, right? So like I am like I do build strategies, but I'm not necessarily handling somebody else's social media. I'm not, building websites and stuff like I have, but it's just like not the focus anymore. Like
Yeah.
I've realized throughout this time that where I really excel is in guiding and helping people kind of see the forest and the trees. So
Mhm.
I can kind of like monitor both of that, looking at the data and all of that nerdy stuff that I love to do.
Yeah.
So I very much was able to like kind of steer my business in that direction. So finding and I don't work within just one industry. Like I have clients, I work with a restaurant right now. I work with a physical therapist. I work with literacy, like not really coaches, but they offer like resources for teachers, for
Mhm.
literacy teachers. So I have like this wide array, um, which like keeps everything really interesting. They do have some
Yeah.
similarities. So some of my clients like have memberships. So there are some things like that, but there's just a lot more variety. And it just keeps things really interesting. And I think I personally need that to stay like stimulated and active in
Yeah.
that. And then yes, I have been able to like kind of set better boundaries to control my schedule and have a little bit more of that ease as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally understand that. I as well like working with a diverse
Hmm.
clientele because it does keep things so interesting. And also, I think it's super informative, right? Because you can
Hmm.
see what one industry is doing and then bring that to another client and be like, why don't we
Yes.
try this? And it's like you get more of that out of the box thinking, or like out of the bubble thinking.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think that's a great point. A lot of the times we are thinking, oh, what are my competitors doing? What's going on? But if you just look into a different industry, you might actually find such better insights there, that you can actually apply to your business as well.
Okay, so then how, because there's some people who are like, you have to niche, and if you don't niche, then like you're screwed. So, like for you, what's your niche that you've decided that includes all these variety of industries?
Yeah, so My niche is more just like how my clients are feeling. So
Mm,
every single one of my fractional CMO clients, they are tired of running the strategy themselves. They no longer want to be the one looking at all the data, leading their teams. Like they want somebody to take that over. They're like, we have a great team of like doers that can like implement this strategy. They just don't know how to make sure everything's aligned with the strategy, and they no longer have the capacity to be able to do that. So it's like kind of broad, but it's still very like narrow too.
yeah, it's a vibe.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know that's usually what I say when people ask me that question. I'm like, oh, as long as we vibe.
Yeah, no, I totally
Yeah.
get that. And it's a funny thing too, where like when I was starting this business, I was like, I work with visual artists, and like that was all I was focused on. And now it's expanded so much over time that even though I say I work with, creative entrepreneurs, like that might be an acupuncturist, like that might be an organizer, that might be, I had like a, bookkeeper even, right?
Mhm.
So like it's, yeah, sometimes your niche is just like the vibe.
Yeah. And like I think that actually speaks a lot to like your brands that you've built, right? So you're attracting people that are attracted to essentially your vibe.
Yeah,
So I think that also can very much be categorized as your niche as well.
yeah, totally, totally. I love it. Okay, so I'm curious for you as you've made all these different pivots. Um, Can you talk us through kind of like the mindset and even maybe like emotional components of pivoting or shutting down a business? And there's something I was going to say about that. Oh yeah, and I want to know like, did every business feel like your baby, or were some of them you less attached to?
Yeah. Um, I mean, they definitely all have some attachment of some kind, and it's always like sad when,
Yeah,
something closes down. Um, maybe this is like not the best advice, but I am the type of person that like I have to be 100% certain before I make like a decision. So sometimes that's like I can make that decision very quickly, or something at times it takes a much longer time to
mm,
make that decision. So, um, with the agency that, I was running for 5 years and we shut down, like that was like a very long decision-making process. I had a business partner. I had to worry about that person as well. And I didn't want to hurt them. It's very much in my
yeah,
people pleaser era. But
relatable.
right, like I didn't want to hurt them. This is their source of income as well. So I'm not just making a decision for myself. I'm making a decision for that person as well, which is not super fair, but we kind of like worked through it and everything. But so that was probably the most difficult one, just because there was another person involved. I do have Bright Beta and Bridge. I have business partners in as well. So that would
Mm,
be, I learned everything with the previous company. So it's a
yeah,
little bit like we have, more structured partnership agreements and everything now. But um, yeah, I think can I swear?
yeah,
Okay, so I think I just get sick of my own shit, to be honest. Where that becomes kind of, there's like this push and pull, and I think it goes back to a little bit of the creativity and the like more analytical side, where my intuition is maybe saying like one thing where, my data mind is telling me something else, and like they just kind of have to come together, and sometimes that takes a little bit of time. So,
mm,
like for my first company, I was like, I want the freedom of being my own business owner, but this is also not making me a lot of money. Like, is there a path forward? And I like have to go through this whole like analytical process
yeah,
that includes like, checking in, reflecting, all of that, like more, intuition driven side of things. So, but yeah, that's kind of my process.
yeah. No, I think that's relatable and helpful because I think sometimes we see people making moves in their businesses that seem like really bold or like cool or exciting or whatever it is. And I feel like when you're in your own brain, there's so much going on, and we're like, oh, but other people are just like doing it. Like it's helpful to know like everyone has their process. And I think that there is oftentimes just a lot of grief with transition, even if you feel better about the thing that you're moving into,
Hmm.
right? It's kind of a funny thing. And like a little bit of, an identity shift too has to happen.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're 100% right on the identity shift. And like, I think I have a little bit of trouble sometimes when I am like in that like transition part of things,
Mm,
because I'm like, am I seeing this clearly? Like, and I
yeah.
do this whole kind of like little tango in my head, to make sure I'm making like a clear-headed decision, as well. But I will also say that like I feel like I've had a lot of experience. Almost like jokingly call it like microdosing, like leaps of faith, right? Like where I'm just doing little things that like push me outside of my comfort zone, like on a regular basis, not even just with business, just like in life in general, trying to like consistently kind of like get out of that comfort zone. So then it
Mm,
just like doesn't feel like such, I mean, closing down a business is a big deal, right? It's a huge thing,
yeah.
but once I get to that point, I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's like not that big of a deal because I've like kind of taken some of the like scary pieces out.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, for sure. I love that micro dosing, getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah, I think that's kind of genius because I do think a lot of times people make things kind of black or white for themselves. Like I'm either doing this or I'm doing that. And a lot of times there is just like that murky middle where you're like, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, I'm not quite sure yet, but like I'm still doing this other thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that's just very real in terms of like moving through things. It's not just, step A to step B
Hmm.
or whatever kind of analogy makes sense in that moment.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm curious for people who are interested in some kind of partnership style business, do you have any advice around like red flags, green flags, how to know if something is a good or if you and someone else are a good fit?
Yeah. So, you know, everyone's going to go into it with the best intentions. Like when you start your business, you're the most excited that you're probably ever going to be. You're very excited. Like you just like nothing's ever going to go wrong. Like I can't tell you how many times my business partner and I had said to each other, like, I can't like imagine ever doing anything else, like, like to each other. And then things changed. And it was hard. It was really hard. She felt like I blindsided her, which I'm sure I did. And I think that's probably the biggest piece that I would say is like have constant communication. So when that ended and I started Bright Beta, which was with another friend, we decided like let's do a check-in like annually just to be like, are we still in this? Like, how are we feeling? Like, what's going on? So we can keep that dialogue open and we can kind of just like see what's going on and like have that conversation. Um, and with Bridge, we very much he was like, okay, like what, which is also new for me, having a partnership with a man. So like all my other business partners were female,
Mm,
um, which like, shouldn't be different, but it can be.
yeah.
But him and I, we've been friends since high school. So we've known each other a really long time. And we do understand each other really well, but we don't
Mm,
understand each other necessarily in a business capacity.
yeah.
So we very much were like, all right, what are you really good at? What am I really good at? Here are also my weaknesses. So
Mm,
I also was like, I will push through. Like if I have to and like I don't feel like I'm getting support, like I'm just gonna pick it up. Like I'm the person in the group project that like
yeah.
does everything if it's not getting done.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm probably not going to vocalize that. So he's like, okay, good to know. He regularly checks in with me because he knows that now. So like we can like now, like I liked that we had that conversation.
Yeah.
So just I think communication's like number one. Like that's probably like the only thing I can say for like really maintaining that partnership and also, having open communication about like the vision in the future because that's also
Mm,
partially where things fell apart for me was, we had different visions for what the future looked like for the company and
mm,
it was like really hard for us to kind of come together. And we also didn't live in the same state, even like we literally were on separate coasts. So there were a lot of things at play, and I think having more open communication would have helped in that instance. I don't think necessarily the outcome would have been different, but I think it would have potentially just not made things as difficult shutting down.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think, yeah, like communication in any relationship, right?
Yes.
It's like really the key.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I think those are all really helpful points. And I think it is interesting too. Like, there's a lot of times I see people wanting partnership in business, I think for the wrong reasons. Like, they want to be, right, when you're like a solopreneur, it's just you
Mhm.
and your business. It can feel really hard and lonely. And it'd be like, oh, it'd be so much easier if there was someone else in this with me. But I think a lot of people kind of get into a partnership because of the wrong reasons. Like, they're just looking for support and connection and friendship rather than really like, yeah, like, do our visions complement each other? And
Yep.
are we, willing to have like equal parts? And are we clear on our, roles and all of that kind of stuff? So yeah, I loved your points, and I do think it's something to think about for people. It's like, do I need a partnership, or like, do I need a friend? Like,
Yeah. But I love that you said like you brought it to like, okay, this is really like communication's key for like any relationship, but like a business partnership is, which like maybe this is a bad analogy because I've never been married, but it does feel like a marriage where like you are like legally obligated to each other, right? And if you don't have the same values, if you don't have the same vision for the future, that's going to make it very difficult
yeah.
to move forward. So I kind of look at it that way is like, do you want to spend the rest of your life with this person?
For sure. Yeah. Like, you're sharing your business house. And
Yes.
like, if you don't live well together, then it's going to
Hmm.
be really hard.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Can you talk briefly about Bridge and what that is all about? Like, who it's for, what it's doing?
Yes. This is like perfect timing to also have this because we are actually in the middle of a slight transition in that. So you're going to get the messy middle right now.
Okay.
Um,
Beautiful.
so we originally started this. I was sharing with him. We were just on like one of our like get-togethers. He was in town, I was in town, and I was sharing this business idea that I had. I have seen throughout my entire career in marketing that oftentimes small businesses are having a really hard time bridging the gap between marketing and sales. So
Mm.
most can't really figure out where the majority of their sales are coming from, or if they do, they're just like, I'm not really sure like how it all works and how it all plays together. So they don't
Yeah.
really know how to replicate that success, where to put more resources, and kind of like to help scale their business.
Mm.
So I was telling him that I would like really love a way to like connect all of these dots for social or for small businesses. And this is embarrassing to say because we have been friends for so long. And he was like, so Mal, you like do not know what I do for work, like at all, do you? And I was like, nope, I do not, sir.
I feel like
So,
that's very like relatable to 30 somethings where you're like, it's been too
yes.
long. I can't ask my friend what they do, but like, I definitely do not know.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, you're like in finance, right?
Yeah, it's always finance, right?
Yeah. So he like that's essentially what he does for financial, like for the company, like for finance institution. Um,
Okay.
so he helps kind of connect all of the data pieces and all of that stuff. So he's the data analyst. Um, so so we were like, cool. And he's like, I could literally help, like I could build this for you. So I was like, awesome. And then it was, am I going to hire him, pay him? I didn't really want to do that because I'm also currently in the position where I'm trying to move. So I'm like in a transition in my personal life, trying to buy a house in Vermont, which is much more expensive than where I was in North Carolina. So I was like, I don't really want to put a bunch of money into this just yet. So I was like, would you like to partner with me on this? We have very different skill sets, but like we need it together. So
Yeah.
essentially, we were building this for marketing professionals primarily and or small businesses that needed to just kind of figure out, where the majority of their sales are coming from.
Mhm.
Fast forward, he was like, I think this actually, so we were building dashboards, but I was like, I think it would be really cool if we had an AI component like as well. So we started working on that. But because he doesn't have the marketing knowledge and he was like, none of this makes sense to me, he was just building it using like his financial knowledge. And he
Uh-huh.
was like, wait, I think this like actually like this has broad applications like for a lot of different companies. So or industries. So, he's been kind of like building this just to like test it out. And then we were going to connect all the data from like a marketing. And it's just kind of evolved from there. And we are actually now seeing that there's likely a much higher likelihood that we would be able to license it to financial institutions at the moment. So we now have switched from marketing to finance.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so we're kind of like in the middle of that transition right now. Like I literally just sent him a loon before I got on the call with you because I needed to update our website to no longer focus on marketing. So like we are like in the thick of just like shifting gears a little bit. So we still think there's going to be a lot of value for marketing and a lot of other industries. But we've moved over to now focusing on helping financial institutions kind of connect the data because there's just so many different data sources for all industries, really. So we're basically centralizing that. So the AI has all of that information. It can go gather things and then give you answers and become your thought partner essentially in that so they can make better investment decisions.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Super cool. So bridge TBD, but
Yes.
super cool. Okay, awesome. So before we wrap up, tell people where they can find you and how they can work with you right now.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and Threads is probably where I spend the most time. And my handle is just Mallory Musante. It's just my name. And then you can also, learn more about kind of my fractional CMO and strategy services at mallorymusante.com. So I offer obviously the fractional CMO, but I also do strategy session, like 1 hour calls for people that don't necessarily need a ton of support. They just have one specific thing that they need to get a little clarity on. And then also I do build out strategies as well. So if you have a team, or if you're not ready for, a month-to-month engagement, but you want to be more strategic with your marketing, we can work together on like a strategy intensive where I will build your strategy for you.
Super cool. And I have to say too, you have a really great newsletter that you send
Thank
out via
you.
email. Yeah, you share a lot of like great information and wisdom there. So we'll link to all the things. But yeah,
Thank
definitely check
you.
out Maggie. And um, yeah, I'm so glad that people hang out on Threads because that is also my new favorite place.
Yes,
And it's so lovely over there.
it really is.
I'm like all the nice people are on Threads and
Yes.
it's the best. Okay, awesome. Mallory, is there any other like little nugget of wisdom that you want to drop on anyone or like a hot take on marketing in 2025?
Hot take on marketing in 2025. Ooh, oh wow, putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say that I think the most underrated part of marketing, which is going to sound funny coming from somebody that's talking about like analyzing data and like making decisions using that, but having fun and experimenting, just
Mm.
trying things, because that's the only way you're going to actually get data to then decide if that works or not. So just trying different things and seeing what works. And actually, taking the time to make sure you're seeing what works.
Yeah.
I think
Take
that's
notes.
kind of, yes, exactly. I think that's probably one of the most underrated parts. Don't get stuck in the planning and overanalyzing. Actually do and have fun and just try different things.
I love that. That's super helpful. And I think when I was kind of like restarting my business after maternity leave, my coach was like, just think of everything as being an experiment. And I feel like that's so helpful to take kind of the like fear or resistance or even like doubts of everything. It's like you have to do the experiment to get the results, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't just predict the results and then like it magically works out exactly how you think. Like you have to do the experiment. So
Yeah.
yeah, super helpful. All right. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. Yeah, everyone go check out Mallory and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Hey all, thank you so much for tuning in today. It would mean the world to me if you could subscribe, share, and leave a review so more people can learn about this work and access their true wealth. And if you'd like to continue your wealth work, please pop onto my email list so you can choose your own wealth adventure, whether that's applying for one-to-one coaching, accessing my DIY content, or staying tuned for upcoming wealth boosting programs. You can find all that at the following link, bit.ly/wealthypjs, PJS, bit.ly/wealthypjs. Join me there and let's get wealthy.